What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Supercharged with Dr. V. I truly believe that being healthier means being happier and better humans. And that's why I can't think of a better topic to fit this philosophy than the practice of yoga, or yoga. Ever since yoga infiltrated the Western world, it's exploded into a $20 billion industry every year in America alone. And the sad part is that yoga has lost a lot of its identity after entering this industry. And so today I want to bust some myths about it. So let's go. Myth number 1, the practice of yoga is only 100 years old. No. Yoga's roots lie in ancient India, which is over 5,000 years old. Yoga's practice is both an art and a science, much like the practice of medicine today. So yoga was introduced to the Western world, specifically America, in the late 1800s. An Indian philosopher named Swami Vivekananda introduced yoga as well as many other aspects of Indian philosophy and spirituality to America in 1893. And many others after him have brought the practice of yoga from the Eastern world to America throughout the 1900s. I mean, do you really think all those English names of the yoga poses are original? I mean, the word yoga itself is in Sanskrit, and all those poses have an original Sanskrit name. But yeah, I agree with you. The English name makes it much easier to memorize. And so let's move on to myth number 2. Yoga's roots are in Hinduism and or Buddhism. From the mid to late 1900s, many of the people who scaled yoga in America took concepts from Buddhism, and they're not wrong. But as I mentioned earlier, yoga goes back way before that. Yoga is mentioned in the Vedas, or ancient Indian scriptures, over 5,000 years ago. And guess what? Buddhism wasn't even around back then. And neither was Hinduism. I mean, Hinduism technically isn't even a religion. It was a label given by the British people who ruled over India to people who studied the Vedas or followed Vedic philosophy. And they gave us that name because it was located in the Indus Valley. See the connection? Indus, Hindu. I mean, 5,000 years ago, there was no such thing as religion. And that's why the Vedas only mention the word human, not Hindu. And that's why its concepts apply to every human on earth. And by the transitive property, yoga is for everyone, not just for Indians. Myth number 3, yoga is just another form of exercise. Friends, this is far from the truth. If you treat yoga as another form of exercise, you'll likely be disappointed and resort to something else. Yoga is not to get that six-pack abs. Yoga is about health and longevity. Its purpose is spirituality through physical practice. The word yoga, or yog, is a Sanskrit word that means to join. To join with what? To join with God, or the higher power. As much as people don't like acknowledging this spiritual aspect of yoga, it's the essence of yoga. And without it, yoga loses its meaning. So there are many ways to join with God. And one of them is a physical practice, or what we call asanas or asanas. And this physical practice is what we today know as yoga. So what we know today as yoga is just a tiny fraction of what yoga truly is. Yoga is about becoming in tune with yourself. It's about pure concentration. It's about strengthening our minds, connecting with ourselves and God. It's about multifaceted human development. And number 4, the last myth that we're going to bust today. Yoga is about impossible postures. If you're familiar with even a little bit of the practice of yoga, then you know how untrue this is. Yes, there are some very, very complicated postures in yoga. But the amazing thing about it is that it covers the entire spectrum, from the easiest to the hardest postures. So if you haven't heard it already, you do not have to be flexible to do yoga. You can make it as easy or as hard as you like. It's a practice that's universal. It's meant for everyone, whether you're male or female, underweight or overweight, no matter what religion you come from, where you live in the world, anyone. If you're a human being, then yoga will benefit your body, mind, and spirit. That's a guarantee. So there you go, friends. 4 common myths about the practice of yoga. Now, there are many more myths out there, but this is just what I wanted to share about things that I feel like are not talked about as much as they should. So tomorrow, let's continue this conversation and talk about the Western influence on yoga. Now, stay tuned later this week because I will be sharing yoga in terms of modern medicine And I'll be sharing my short but effective yoga routine. Stay tuned. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Supercharge with Dr. V. This week we're talking about yoga. Now, yesterday we busted 4 common myths about yoga, and today I want to continue that conversation to talk about Western influence on yoga and how it is viewed today. So let's go. Believe it or not, yoga was popular in the Eastern world way before it was popular in the West. In America, it really skyrocketed in the late 1900s and the early 2000s. And despite the good intentions and all the hard work that went behind making yoga an acceptable practice in America, I do believe that it's lost a lot of its original purpose. We mentioned yesterday how the spiritual aspect of yoga is not thought about or practiced as originally designed. I mean, whenever you say the word God, people freak out. I mean, even if you don't believe in a higher power, it's a sad reaction that we face nowadays. And the result of this is that we've oversimplified and narrowed its use to only physical benefit. Today, we're using yoga like we use Band-Aids. I mean, if you get hurt, you put on a Band-Aid. And a lot of what we see today is the same with yoga. If you're stressed, you do yoga. If your muscles feel tight, you'll do yoga. If you develop arthritis or back pain, your doctor might recommend trying yoga. And there's nothing wrong to use yoga for these things. Yoga can help tremendously with these things. But I think where we go wrong is our outlook and approach towards it. Because let's go back to the purpose of yoga that we discussed yesterday. If we use that definition, then using yoga as a Band-Aid doesn't make any sense. It's a practice that should become a habit that we use consistently throughout our lives so that we can grow into better human beings. And if we're going to use it only for its physical benefit, at least use it preventatively. I mean, practice it regularly so that these physical, mental, and emotional problems don't occur in the first place. Another thing that I believe has happened with the introduction of yoga in the Western world is cultural appropriation. Let's take a look at the definition. Cultural appropriation is the act of adopting elements of an outside culture, including knowledge, practices, and symbols, without understanding or respecting the original culture and context. Now, I'm not saying that yoga is not respected, but the allegation that I am willing to make is that yoga has been adopted without the proper understanding. And yes, anything that becomes as popular as yoga has very high chances of becoming misunderstood. I mean, it's misunderstood within the Indian population, where it originally came from. But the negative consequences that have come out of this are very bothersome to me. Only after yoga became popular in the West do we hear about the most ridiculous yoga practices. Let me share just one of them with you and allow me to rant. Beer yoga. Have you ever heard of it? Yes, yoga and alcohol. Like, are you kidding me, America? I understand you're looking for any opportunity to drink, but there must be a limit. I understand that entrepreneurs are trying to innovate and find new ideas, but there are some lines that should not be crossed. Yoga is about control, mental focus, and concentration. And alcohol does the exact opposite. These two don't go together in any way. This is cultural appropriation. This is disrespecting the practice. Only after the West adopted yoga do we see ads that say, "Want to become a yogi? Complete our course and get certified." Excuse me? Do you know how ridiculous this is? If you don't, watch yesterday's video and learn the definition of yoga. This is cultural appropriation. And my last example is from a couple of years ago, when schools in the South banned yoga and mindfulness from their classrooms. Now, the opponents of this were the children's parents, who brought up yoga's Hindu and Buddhist roots. And some of the parents, when they heard any Sanskrit word, they freaked out. Now, I find this absolutely crazy, because the need for children to have emotional regulation, to study their mind, to know and be aware of their feelings, to stay healthy and focused, is so high at that age. And if schools are trying to use different techniques to have their children learn those skills, then why not? As we talked about yesterday, those Sanskrit words are not tied to any religion. Yoga is not a religious practice, it's a spiritual one. And even if those children or their parents were not spiritual, yoga and mindfulness were taught in a way that did not force religion or spirituality onto any of those students. Now, I do have to give credit to some of the schools, because after the parents were educated, The curriculum was allowed in those schools, so props to them, and I'm so glad that happened. So there you go, friends. There's so much to be said about how yoga is viewed and understood, especially in the Western world. Now, don't get me wrong, I am super grateful and glad that yoga has spread across the globe and is helping millions of people become the best humans they can be. But at the same time, let's all work together to fight the misrepresentation, the misunderstanding, and the cultural appropriation of yoga that we see today. Now, you may be wondering why we still haven't talked about the scientific research behind yoga. Well, you're in luck, because tomorrow we are going to be talking about modern medicine and what it says about yoga. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to Supercharged with Dr. V. Today, let's dive right in to look at the science behind yoga and see why more and more practitioners are prescribing it to their patients. Today, we're going to take a bird's eye view of the research on yoga and look at it in different subsets of health. So let's dive right in. The first one today, stress and inflammation. Today, adults and children are bombarded with so many daily temptations and distractions due to technology, social media, and the internet. Our minds are overstimulated, our schedules are overfilled, peer pressure is greater than ever, and the need to achieve more academic and professional success is higher than ever before. Researchers are saying that the current generation of young adults are the most stressed out generation in the history of mankind. Now, when children and adults internalize this stress, it presents physically, and that leads to a myriad of health issues. And the problem is that our minds are too distracted to even realize that we've internalized that stress. So stress is a part of our lives. I mean, we get it. But is it a big deal? Well, the CDC estimates that stress accounts for almost 75% of all physician visits. So clearly this is a problem, even if you think you're not stressed. It all starts with our autonomic nervous system, which is the system within our bodies that naturally and automatically regulates all of our body functions, such as managing stress, our immune system, spending and conserving energy, and even digestion. Now, what yoga does is bring our autonomic nervous system to a healthy balance by stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that helps us calm down, relax, stay at homeostasis and ease. Now, the opposite of that is our sympathetic nervous system, and that is like our fight or flight, our emergency response system. And that gets activated when our body perceives threat or feels threatened in any sort of way. And stress is a huge cause of that, and that stress can be positive or negative stress. Now, unfortunately, because of our overstimulated lives, many of us live in a sympathetic overdrive. And what that means is that our sympathetic nervous system is turned on all the time because there's constant stress. And unfortunately, our bodies are not designed to handle that kind of drive. Now, this long-term stress releases cortisol constantly and triggers inflammation in our bodies. Chronic inflammation can persist undetected for years at low levels in our bodies. Now, this can slowly damage the body by increasing our risk for diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, age-related diseases such as Alzheimer's, autoimmune diseases, and so much more. And through yoga, we can counteract this mechanism because it increases our parasympathetic tone. And that decreases our blood pressure and heart rate, eases our respirations, and increases our heart rate variability. In multiple studies, yoga has been shown to decrease inflammatory markers and cells within our bodies, while increasing natural chemicals that alleviate inflammation. And the best part is, only a little bit of yoga is needed to make a significant difference. Let's move on to another subset of health, neurotransmitters. Yoga practice can increase a lot of neurotransmitters and hormones within our body, such as GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, all which are natural antidepressants. These have also been shown to help in stress, fear, depression, anxiety, and sleep regulation. Yoga practice has also been shown to increase the levels of melatonin, which helps you fall asleep and stay asleep, as well as oxytocin, the bonding hormone. All right, let's move on to low back pain and arthritis. The American College of Rheumatology recommends that exercise and physical activity should be in the treatment plan of anyone with osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis to improve daily function. And yoga can specifically help in elements of body awareness, such as proprioception, balance, postural alignment, and coordination. For chronic low back pain, yoga has been shown to improve pain, back mobility, function, depression and anxiety, all of these even better than physical therapy sometimes. I mean, can you imagine if people did yoga preventatively so that arthritis and back pain wouldn't occur? We would be living healthier and also saving our healthcare system billions and billions of dollars. Now let's move on to the last subset of health that we're going to talk about today, cardiac disease. The number one cause of morbidity, mortality, and disability worldwide. Cardiac disease encompasses a wide spectrum of syndromes, such as stroke, arrhythmia, atherosclerosis, hypertension, hyperlipidemia or high cholesterol, and other vascular and cardiac diseases. Yoga may be a significant and cost-effective therapy because it interrupts many events that lead to the development of cardiovascular disease. According to the American Heart Association, yoga can improve your respiratory function, increase your lung capacity, decrease your heart rate and your blood pressure, improve circulation throughout your body, and help your heart's muscle tone. So, in conclusion, there's ongoing research about the health benefits of yoga. And despite there being so many studies that have demonstrated and advocated for the use of yoga in medical practice, there are some things that we need to be cautioned about. Many of these studies are single-center studies, and they have small or low-powered sample sizes. And another limitation of these studies is that they have non-standardized methodologies with short follow-up periods. And what that means is, what kind of yoga are they doing? What kind of poses are they doing? You know, there's so many different types of yoga, and all of these studies aren't looking at the same type of yoga or the same types of poses. So it's hard to replicate these studies and compare different ones. So moving into the future, we need larger, multi-centered studies with long-term follow-up and standardized methodologies and yoga practices. So the practice of yoga is not going to be easier or quicker than taking a pill, but mounting evidence shows that it's worth the effort and the investment. Personally, I don't need science to prove that yoga is beneficial for me in 1,000 different ways. Something that has withstood the test of time is enough for me. However, to bring anything into the medical community, we need the research and the data behind it. Today, we just scratched the surface of the research behind yoga, but I hope it gave you insight into how much it can impact our life in living longer and healthier. Stay tuned for tomorrow when I'm going to share my daily 5-minute yoga routine. Welcome back everyone to Supercharge with Dr. V. New background, I know. To end this week of yoga, I want to share with you my daily yoga routine, which is Surya Namaskar, which stands for sun salutations. I've been doing Surya Namaskar for the past 10 years, and it's amazing. The difference has been so significant. Every morning when I do it, I feel so refreshed. My blood gets moving. I feel more awake. My mind becomes calm and focused. But most importantly, I'm able to worship the sun. We worship the sun as it's the driving force of all life on earth. And by doing this yoga routine, we try to emulate its qualities, such as consistency, strength, brilliance, and liveliness. And that's what I love so much about it. It's a physical, mental, and spiritual practice that allows me to respect and build a relationship with Mother Nature. So let me show you how it's done. So here we are. Before I start this routine, I recite an introductory prayer to the sun, and then I do a sequence of 10 poses, a total of 12 times, which I'm about to show you, and then I end with a concluding prayer to the sun as well. So let's go through the 10 poses. Now you might have seen slight variations of this, such as 12 poses or a different breathing pattern, but this is just how I do it, and it's commonly practiced as well. So before we start, we say a mantra, so Om Mitraya Namaha, and then we begin. So here, notice that my knees are straight, my forearms are parallel to the ground, I'm looking straight, feet together. Then second, I'm going up. Notice that my elbows want to remain as straight as possible and my knees straight as well, and I want to look up at the sky. Number 3, you're coming down and touching your toes. Try to keep your knees as straight as you can. Touch your forehead all the way to your knees and your hands flat on the ground. And from there, we're going to take our left leg back. Just like that. Notice that my hands stayed in the same position that they were, and my right foot also didn't move. So hand, foot, hand. And so my left leg went back, my knee is touching the ground, and I'm looking up, just like that. You want to decrease the angle of this right leg right here. So just push up, just like that. Then we're coming into push-up position. Notice straight body, or as straight as possible. Butt shouldn't stick up like this, or hang like that. Nice straight, core contracted. And then we're going down to the ground. But besides my hands and my feet, only my forehead, nose, and chest will touch the ground. So it'll look like this. Notice that my butt ends up sticking in the air. Because again, my knees as well, chest, forehead, and nose. So check it out. Then we're coming into the cobra. My knees are not making contact, they're just hanging above the ground. Then we go into downward dog. Try to have your heels touch the floor and the top part of your body in line with your arms. And then you bring that left leg up. So our left leg went back first, so our left leg will come up first. And so same thing, besides this nice hole in my pants, you decrease this angle right here of your left leg. So try to push, decrease that angle, and look up. And then we're coming back to pose that we already know, touching your feet. And then back to center. And so let me show you this one more time with the breathing and a little faster so you get the flow of it. So to begin, we start here. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And hold. And you say your next mantra at that point. And I just want to mention one thing, that the first time we led with our left leg. The second time we're going to lead with our right leg. So it's going to go left, right. And since there's 12 total, if you manage to do more than one set, that sequence will still continue of alternating between leading with the left and then leading with the right. So there you go, friends. Initially, it took a tremendous amount of concentration to get the form right with the footwork and the breathing. But take it slow, and I'm sure in no time, it'll become second nature to you. When I first started doing Surya Namaskar 10 years ago, I only did one sequence, which takes about 20 seconds every morning. So start small, but stay consistent. I'll post all 12 mantras tomorrow, so look out for that. And next week, we'll talk about how climate change affects our health. See you then.